All right.
Just Wanda just
Casting some spells.
All right. Welcome to episode 8 of Haven of Horror. I am Subject 879. This is the Day Ghost and Milton Man thing. Can you guys believe we're already at episode 8?
yes.
Oh.
That's something to celebrate.
It just feels crazy. It feels like yesterday I was just talking to you about bringing this back. Um, so a couple quick announcements. Like I mentioned last week, I've started an Instagram and a Twitter for the channel. I run those things myself. And a way to, I guess, draw Instagram followers, get people aware of the brand. Is any movies that we're not talking about that I watched that are horror related, I post a review on there. So if you guys are interested, I will post the link here in just a minute to the post, so you can follow us on Instagram, and I will post the Twitter as well. Um, Austin, what are we talking about this week?
We are talking about The Thing and The Fog.
No,
Oh, wait.
No. That was
Christine and Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
that was good. All right, but first, we've been trying to do a little bit of news. Milton, do you want to start us off with some news?
What's in the news? What's in the news? Yes.
I hate both of you.
We gotta do some jingles of some kind.
I get all
here.
my news from my booze.
Oh.
I always look into myself for knowledge. Yes. Anyway. Yeah, so I kind of looked at some smaller news. I just happened to stumble across this. I mean, there's also the news that, the new Resident Evil movie is coming out at some point. I'll just go over that quickly. The banner for that one is apparently releasing somewhere in September. Maybe the movie is being teased for December 3rd or something like that. For the reboot to Resident Evil. I don't know if anybody cares about that necessarily.
Is it a Netflix thing or is it like a theatrical film?
I don't know.
Okay, so I do know this.
The source is Sony Pictures, so
Oh God.
So I do.
So it's gonna be trash.
So I do know this. This is the theatrical film, and there is a Netflix show as well coming out. So this is for the theatrical version.
Oh, okay. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care too much about it, unfortunately, because like the directors and people associated are like, well, it's not Iwa Bowl, but that's, I mean, I guess
I will.
Paul Anderson wasn't really great either, but
to give it the benefit of the doubt, it does seem like they're at least sticking to the games, because we know the cast and there's some decent actors and actresses in there, but it's all characters from the games.
I suppose, but the issue is I think that might be to its detriment to a certain degree because the games are very much games and not movies.
No, but you could take those. But you can take those characters because we don't know anything about the plot yet. You can take those characters, and from what I've seen, it's the characters from the first and second game. So they could easily be just combining those and making a new story out of it.
Yeah.
But at least it has like reference for the material.
That's true.
Oh God, I'm not getting good vibes from this guy's filmography.
No, it's like I think like the best thing he did was like 47 meters down or something. But
yeah, it's on there.
That's
the
not
sequel to The Strangers is on there.
Yeah.
Oh no.
There's a movie called F. Everybody press F for his career. Except it's still going, unfortunately. And the writers of the movie don't even have Wikipedia pages.
Yeah. I am cautiously optimistic.
What are you hoping for?
I just want to see these characters from the games like done somewhat justice.
I guess.
But also keep in mind, I've seen all 6 Resident Evil movies, so my expectations are like below the floor. Like
they're doing the first one and the second one at the same time.
I just said that.
Oh, I messed
it. Yeah,
while I was reading this. Why?
It'd make more sense to do 2 and 3 at the same time if they were doing something like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John, by the way, for showing me those games. That makes sense to me now.
Yeah, by the way, guys, as well, if anybody is interested, Milton and I are currently going through 2 and 3 because Austin never shows up. No. So check.
There, but,
Yeah. But so check out those as well. And then as soon as we finish those, we're gonna move into 7. My goal is to have 2 and 3 remake and 7 done before 8 drops. And I also at some point want to play Days Gone and The Last of Us on the channel.
Yeah. But the other news I quickly wanted to get into. So apparently, just this smaller story it's getting circulated around a lot for some reason, despite the fact that I don't know. So Chicago filmmaker was making an earthworm horror flick when the pandemic shutdown made things weird. A guy named Alex, I'll just quickly summarize. A guy named Alex Phillips is making a feature film called All Jacked Up and Full of Worms.
Okay.
The idea is apparently it follows a motel worker who discovers snorting earthworms gives them a euphoric, hallucinatory trip.
So it's basically how to snort fried worms.
What?
Yeah, kind of. It's like the man's psychotic bender, which involved a lot. You can always look this stuff up, but he's a 31-year-old filmmaker. So March 12th was like his final shoot day. He's still trying to get it released in like 2021. Film is currently in post-production. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's not coming out in 2021. It's coming in 2022. Post-production. It's in post-production, and apparently the project is apparently supported by the Illinois Arts Council Agency. Like he actually got a $4,000 grant to get this film through post-production. And I'm wondering why. But yeah.
Well, it's a good thing Chicago's taxpayer money is going to good use.
Yeah. It's like he said, I thought I was ready for it, as ready as I could be. I had written, directed, produced several experimental horror genre shorts, ones that made festivals like Maryland, Palm Springs, and Chicago International. I was feeling good about myself, he said. So it's interesting. I like giving at least some attention to some of the smaller projects. Who knows?
Definitely,
This could
yeah.
be interesting. John
Yeah.
Carpenter has done weirder.
Yeah.
And I just love snorting worms, so I'm glad I'm being represented on film.
So the new story that I'm going to mention, this one is going to be really quick because there's not a lot to go on. Keep in mind as well that the source for this is We Got This Covered, so take it with a grain of salt.
No.
Yeah, this is just the only thing I could find that was about actual films. But I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying if it does happen. But apparently Rob Zombie is being recruited to make a I guess a remake, you would call it, of The Munsters, the sitcom from the 60s.
The new edgy action-oriented Munsters.
I can't wait for a scene where the main monster says fuck 50 times just straight.
And as someone who is a big fan of most of Zombies films, even I'm like, this is not the guy for that material.
There's no person for this material. The Munsters was essentially just a ripoff of the Addams Family. That was why it was made. It was there to capitalize off the profits of the Addams Family at the time, and it did. And you know how quickly the Addams Family got canceled, and the Munsters did not last too long either.
I mean, if you have to bring it back, I think there's a director out there. It's just not Rob Zombie.
Yeah, a director 20 years ago when we were doing the Addams Family movie.
Yeah, the Addams Family new one didn't do so well either because that one wasn't attached to the right people either. So.
Does this only exist because of that new Addams Family movie that came out?
Oh, I forgot there was a new one. Okay.
It might be, or it might not.
They're only 4 years too late? That movie came out
I think Universal was probably looking in the well and they were like, what do we have?
Yeah,
the Monsters.
Yeah, why would Rob Zombie want to make this movie though?
Because he likes work, likes money.
Well,
you can just make his own thing.
Yeah, but
he make money.
Okay, so here's the thing with Zombie is Zombie's heyday was in the early 2000s.
Sure. Yeah.
Now he has to rely on crowdfunding just to get his movies made. So if a studio is like, "Hey, we want you to make this," I guarantee you he is going to say yes. In fact, I think his last big studio film was Halloween 2, which explains a lot because that movie sucks.
Yep.
I like that first one, but the second one is just like, what the fuck?
No.
So, Austin, what is your news story for this
Well,
week?
Milton had 2 and I have none, so we've covered 3. So
Short.
Austin, that's twice now.
that's not true. I pulled one out of my ass last time.
No, he actually got one. I actually aped off of something someone else had posted last time, so I more or less have
I,
redeemed
for,
myself from last time by
I, f-
putting out 2.
I forgot that you just pulled one out of your ass last week.
I pulled out the Predator one last time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. So, we normally just pick at random like how we start these. If it's okay with you guys, I would like to start with Christine
Makes
because I
sense.
watched this one first. Milton, why don't you tell us about Christine?
Ooh, what I would like to say about Christine. Okay, so Christine filmed in probably 82 to 83, just depending on the production went. But yeah, released in 1983, is an adaptation of a Stephen King novel, in which I don't know why I was about to say czar for some reason, but anyway, sorry. Car gets possessed as it's going down the assembly line and already starts its bloody line of carnage. And eventually, it survives for a few decades and finds its way into the hands of a nerdy boy who has domestic issues at home, issues at school, and is rather isolated and really only has one friend. And the car that is evil in his possession takes advantage of that. He forms a weird codependency with the car, and he feeds into it. It corrupts him as the car itself is corrupt. Um, and hilarity ensues.
Yes, it certainly does.
I
So,
really like this movie. I did.
okay.
Yeah,
And
I am glad because this is my second time watching it, and the last time I watched it was like the day after I finished the book. And I'm glad this time I was able to divorce myself from the book a little bit more. Because when you read the book and then jump straight into the movie, you can see just like how condensed it is. But this time I was like, like no, this is still pretty good.
It's definitely interesting. I might want to get into the book actually after watching this movie.
One of the weirdest things about the book is that, like a lot of Stephen King books, it's broken into 3 acts. But Act 1 and 3 are told in first person, but Act 2 is told in third person. It's really strange.
hmm,
That's King for you. He doesn't plan these in advance. He just writes it as he feels. So
I would like
Yeah.
to revisit the book as well. This was
Yeah, because
also. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, because the main character gets taken out through the second act, so he's like not in it at all.
hmm.
It's very
This was
strange.
also my second time watching it, and most times I hadn't really revisited the book, but I remember liking it quite a bit. For those who don't know, I always say Stephen King is my favorite author. I don't think I've read a book by him I disliked so far. Of course, I haven't even made like a huge dent in his huge like just list of novels. But everything I've read by him I've loved. And I don't remember a lot of the book, but I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be a lot more negative on this. I did not love this movie. I feel
Something John
like
doesn't love.
And it's John Carpenter? What?
a lot of the important character stuff is missing, which you've mentioned off stream before.
Hmm.
I like the stuff with the car and the horror with the car, but everything with the character development feels chopped to pieces to me. Um, and so I don't care about anyone by the end of this movie.
See, I don't know if I'd say chopped to pieces. Definitely, it's completely streamlined. Like you get just kind of like the bare bones, exactly like each beat you need, while the book has all the filler stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this movie you kind of get like major plot point with a character, next scene major plot point with a character, and it's adapting a 650-page book. It's kind of just having to jump from big moment to big moment.
Yeah.
Carpenter is working with the hour-and-a-half format here, so he really does need to condense a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Granted,
absolutely.
of course, the side to that is there's a lot of good stuff you cannot put into this movie. So a lot of it does feel a bit chopped up to a certain degree. I can still understand the story though, so the fact that he was still able to do that is good. And
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how I would have been able to tighten the pacing up to include more things or condense things because I feel like there's just enough, but I do want more. I don't
Yeah, you
know.
can't
Maybe you
really
had another.
get more without just expanding the film,
Yeah.
I think.
So
Well, and maybe I think maybe this movie needed to be a little bit longer.
give
Or
Carpenter the budget for a 2-hour film, man. He would
Yeah,
probably
well,
do it.
and gotta remember too, he's like basically a work for hire director with this film. Like they brought
oh,
him
is
in
he?
last minute.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So, and I am in no way when I say this saying that I am like a filmmaker or anything. Like you give me a film to make, it's gonna be a mess because I don't know what I'm doing. But
Oh,
to
good.
me, the thing I noticed, and again, and this is also something that could change if I watch this again. I very much have different viewings of movies based on when I watch them. But it felt like for at least a good chunk of the film, we focused too much on the best friend, and I can't remember his name now. I would have focused on the relationship between the car and the kid.
And
Cut
that's
down,
straight from the book.
yeah, cut down on some of the stuff with his friend because it feels like we follow him more than we do the main character at times,
Yeah, because he's the protagonist of the book.
and make it about this kid becoming corrupted. Because that's the stuff that I was most interested in with this movie.
I can't. I don't know. I can't justify cutting out too much from the best friend portion because I do feel like that's important. At the same time, you're right. There are certain portions of that gradual degradation that isn't present in this movie because we kind of go from like a slow turn, then we kind of chop out a section, and then we get to the point where he has a lot more leverage over his family,
Yeah,
and that
and
that makes things a little weird to look at. But at the same time, we do need to focus on the best friend too because he's an important part, and what happens to him is important.
well, and I think the aspect that suffers most is the main character's relationship with the girl, because most of their issues we don't see, we're told. And then by the time that we're already told these issues, then we see them develop further, like the scene where she was choking in the car, which I don't understand how that works. Like, did the car make her choke? Is it just because it's possessed, or
I think the idea was she got startled, and so she just tried to swallow a whole lump or something like that. I'm
oh,
not really
okay?
sure.
Well, and because the car kills her, like the original owner's daughter that way, and it's
Mhm.
basically the same scene with her. So it's implied that it's the car that does it. I'm not entirely sure how,
Yeah,
but
like
both with this movie and the book, I'm not entirely sure what Christine is. I think the movie streamlines it more so that I can understand it a bit better than the book. But there's also weird baggage stuff that they keep in from the book that doesn't make sense anymore because what Christine is isn't the same anymore.
okay.
So
The
I don't really know if I need to see like an origin to why Christine is the way she is, but at the same time, I don't know.
I
I don't
personally I
know.
don't need an origin, but I need to know the rules.
Sure,
Because all we see is a glowing light and then she starts choking. What's happening?
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, I do want to give this movie some praise for a specific section that I really appreciated, which was the car radio, because
Sure.
every choice of music is on point,
Mhm.
and I loved every scene where the car starts picks music. But I do have a question about that too, because this is the '80s, right? Did it just get lucky with all those songs, or
it's like Bumblebee. It just talks through the radio.
If we question that aspect too much, we're going to go down a rabbit hole. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
and
just
really
kind of a
sure that
gimme, I
I'm
think.
not really
that
sure
is
if
a
there's a
gimme?
clear answer to that. Just if
Yeah.
Christine was re-released as a remake or something like that later on, it
Well,
would probably have music that would be current at this time or something.
well, and I'll say this up front: out of all the King movies that we keep like threatening to remake, this needs a remake.
And I was thinking of that at the same time. Unfortunately,
What was that?
I don't know. Okay,
And I feel like I'm going to agree with your point,
but so here's the thing with how films are right now. Because looking at the production of this movie, of Christine, you had a lot of effort, to find all these cars so that you can model all this destruction that has been done to Christine throughout the movie. That takes a lot of effort. It was not easy to find those vehicles. The thing is, the most practical substitute for that thing is we have a CGI car. And then the whole crux of the film is going to be placed on a car that is essentially not there. And that means then that you might get one or two models just for reference, and then everything else in the movie is just going to be digital destruction. And then I feel like it doesn't have as much weight and as much impact as it's done in this movie.
See, I can see
And
what you're saying, but I think if you did a remake that is more character focused, you could make it so people aren't thinking about the CGI.
sure,
that's the
but
thing. It's going to be the It thing all over again,
yeah,
where
but
we fix the character stuff, but all the horror stuff is way worse.
and there's another problem too. Just based on where we are as a society right now, there is no way that people are going to actually adapt to Stephen King's film as it's written. There's no way that's going to fly with audiences, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. There are certain sensibilities that just make it so that people would be way too easily offended by what's going on in this
See, I
particular.
I disagree with that. If I
But
well, no, I don't, because I was gonna say well, I was gonna say Doctor Sleep, but then I remembered that was a box office flop. That movie really deserved to do better.
I mean, this movie is. Well, I'd like to see Doctor Sleep first before I make a judgment of that. But hopefully it was good.
Don't
And
worry,
then
soon.
soon, yes. But thing is, this book, these movies were kind of made for their own time, and they're good for their own time. Unfortunately, it's just I feel like there's been a lot of time that has been lost, and us trying to reinterpret, like the 50s and 70s and 80s in today's time is going to be different from when it was back then.
I mean, I guess like I don't know. I would watch a remake of this, and I am in full support of this getting remade.
Sure,
Um,
I mean, I would like to see it, but I don't think it's going to be good, unfortunately.
because yeah, Austin, maybe the horror stuff is slightly worse, but if you fix the character stuff and the horror stuff is worse because of it, for me at least, it would balance itself out enough that I still like the film.
So I'm going to say the only way you can remake it to get what you want, which is like, put all that stuff from the book back in and fill out the characters, is if it were a mini series, and then it wouldn't have the money to do the Christine stuff right. And I think it'll
I
just be one of
mean,
those.
I would watch a mini series about this.
How long would it
Um,
go though? Maybe like 4 episodes or something like that. Do hour-long segments. I guess you could do
Probably
I'm
four
that.
to
fine with
six
that.
episodes.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like it would overstay its welcome,
Just don't give it to Paramount Plus, please. Like,
or Blumhouse.
Just don't make it,
oh,
please.
I don't know.
I
I think you could improve on this movie quite a bit.
Sure, there could be. I just don't think that the people
I don't
are
think it would
there,
be.
and I don't think it's the right time.
I'll
We'd
tell you
have to
what.
wait a decade. We'd have to wait a decade or two, I think.
Remake this and give it to the guy who directed Doctor Sleep. And will be a box office flop, but it'll be good.
But
You
see,
just
he
want this man to
made Ghost
suffer, don't
Stories.
you?
I don't know if he would be interested in doing evil car movie.
I mean, it's possessed. It's kind of a ghost story.
Well, we don't know, and I
Yeah, that's
guess we're not
true.
supposed to know. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
because well, that's kind of one of my like weird things where you get something that's just kind of carried over, even though we cut the meaning. which is that Arnie, the nerdy kid, starts talking like the old man that they buy the car from.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And in the movie, they cut that character completely and they combine him with his brother, who they meet later on in the book that explains the backstory of Christine. They combine them into one
Oh,
character
okay.
in the movie.
Huh. Interesting.
And in the book, the original owner possesses him, like he's the ghost. Christine is also evil. So it's like kind of muddled a
Redundant?
bit. Yeah, so like Arnie, like that kid is not in the climax of the book. He's not, he's like driving away with his mom in a completely different location.
I imagine, I guess Carpenter needed to take liberties, but
Yeah, and I think he streamlines it right. It's just you get that, you get weird stuff like Arnie talking like that older guy. And I don't fully understand why if he's not being possessed by him, but it's just,
Yeah.
I guess that's just part of the car corrupting him, I guess.
hmm.
You could maybe make the same argument for that guy.
The other thing I do want to give kudos to this movie for is the car rebuilding itself scenes.
Yes.
But the effects work in general is great.
It really is. There,
Props to the people who had to find those cars.
like, I know I've been mostly complaining about this movie, but there is stuff to like in it, especially the horror stuff. Um, but at least for me, as much as I love horror stuff, especially with Stephen King, I also love Stephen King's characters because at least like his main characters are always so well written, and that's just like that's the biggest thing this movie let me down with, in general. I think.
I don't think it was terrible, but it wasn't the best that I've heard. But
Yeah, it's just kind of bare bones, but I don't think
you
it's
know,
bad.
Yeah.
but that's probably the disappointment there because it
Mhm.
is bare bones and it could be better. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would like to see what Carpenter could do with this if he hadn't been brought in at the last minute. Because I was not aware of that.
yeah.
Yeah,
All in
yeah, that
all,
is the
just
thing.
with that,
They were making this movie already and they were like, "Hey Carpenter, why don't you direct this?" And he was like, "Okay."
like, all in all, considering what when it was brought in, this movie has turned out pretty good, all things considered.
Absolutely, yeah. This could have been a
Yeah.
complete disaster. I mean, it's also a year after The Thing. It's The Thing's 82,
So yeah, because this is '83.
right? Yeah, okay. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember if I was messing up that date or not. But yeah.
He was
Okay.
working really hard during that time.
Yeah, he was pumping out a movie every year for a bit.
Yeah.
Um.
And yeah, like but there's just some great effects work with the car. Like I love there's the one Christine where it like smashes the front and it's got like fangs on the front. It's in the climax, or
Yeah,
the,
that was pretty
when the
cool.
car's on fire. Like that stuff's great.
Also,
Yeah.
want to give kudos to some of the acting. I think the main characters are all well acted, even if there's not a lot there. I also love the guy that runs the garage because he's just like an angry old man for no reason.
Yeah, he commits pretty well to that thing. He's probably the best actor in the movie.
He's
Yeah,
just like horrible to the main character for no reason.
yeah. But I'll give props to Arnie too. The actor for him, he commits in some scenes.
Hmm.
I agree, and I
Especially the high speed scene. I would say is definitely worth credit to that actor. Certainly.
I agree, and
Yeah,
I
well,
think he
especially
really
because he
comes.
didn't really continue acting. He became a director.
Oh, interesting. See, that was
Yeah, he,
that's curious because it was driving me nuts. He looked like someone I've seen in like another
He's
movie.
in Jaws 2. When we watched Jaws 2, I was like, that's the main guy from Christine.
Oh, but I'd only seen it once, so I was like, I don't really remember what he looks like.
but yeah, Keith Gordon. Yeah, he broke the code and he had just became a director because he figured out acting. It's
Yeah.
like I want to move on to the next thing.
And I like him especially once he gets like I guess you would say fully corrupted by the car. He does that like kind of asshole uh kid thing really well.
Yeah, and I
Um,
really like I'm trying to remember what the actor's name is. It's like, is it Harry Dean Stanton, I think? The actor who plays the detective.
oh yeah, he's good.
And he's in Alien. Yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm looking at his filmography. Keith
He's in a
Gordon.
ton of stuff.
He's in a lot of stuff, but not as much as you would think. But yeah, Jaws 2. There's that certainly.
Oh, sorry, you're looking at Keith Gordon. Sorry, I thought you were looking
Yeah.
at the guy I was talking about.
Oh, who are you talking about?
Harry Dean Stanton, the guy that plays detective. Because he's just like
right.
a working character actor.
Yeah, that guy certainly. Yeah, but Keith Gordon, he became a director.
Yeah, he did a lot of TV work.
Yeah, he's done a few things. Not a lot, some stuff that doesn't get a lot of exposure, but um, this is where he's done House MD as a director for a few episodes. Dexter, The Strain, Fargo, Homeland, Better Call Saul, Legion. He's got some good experience under him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's definitely done some good stuff.
Yeah, like Masters of Sex apparently.
Speaking of behind the scenes, the other thing to mention as well is the screenplay is credited to Bill Phillips, who, when I looked up, had not done anything that I had really heard of before.
Yeah, I don't recognize the name.
I think my favorite death scene in the film, if you guys want to list yours as well, you can, but it's the garage guy, because when he gets crushed by the seats, that got me a little claustrophobic, especially towards the end there where it's getting like really tight. But what about you guys?
You felt you were
It's
right there
funny
with
that you say
him.
that one because that's the only death from the book that's not made like more over the top. That one's much more restrained.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I guess so. But
Well, just because in the
I
book,
like the over the top
like
deaths in
drives through
Christine.
his house.
I like the over the top deaths in Christine. I think they were pretty entertaining. You got
Mhm.
burning car chasing after a guy.
That's probably my favorite.
That's really good too.
Yeah. But yeah, I always remember like seeing quite a few films that really referenced this movie. I think the most recent one that I saw was Regular Show. If you all
Okay,
have
I've
seen
never
it,
seen that. Yeah.
yeah, they reference it, but it was like a British version with like an old time car.
I don't feel like a lot of people talk about this movie anymore as much as
See,
like the
I
other.
actually agree that I think it is something that's referenced quite a bit.
Certainly.
Like Ash vs. the Evil Dead does like a whole Christine thing. And I've been watching through Futurama recently, and they do an episode that's a mixture of Christine and werewolves,
Oh yeah.
where it's like robots get hit by a car and then they become werecars.
It's great.
They turn into cars. It's like when their clock hits 0000.
Yeah. I would say I think my favorite thing, other than all this stuff, which I would hopefully see a bit more in the book, is the idea of the villain being something that is manufactured by the people around him, and you see a parallel between Christine and Arnie, and how at least how this film operates.
Yeah, and that
Which I,
whole opening thing is completely made for the movie.
but I appreciate that it's there actually.
Yeah,
I
it's a
liked
cool
the
image where you see like Christine going down the assembly line.
Yeah.
get old
Yeah,
bat to the
bad to the
bone.
bone.
Yeah. But I do like that it's there. You definitely see a parallel with Arnie's situation where he's being bullied at school and he's being suppressed at home.
Oh,
Almost to an extreme.
that's the other thing I appreciate about this movie is it keeps the typical insane Stephen King bullies.
Sure. Yeah, these guys are hard. These guys are
Well,
like one step away from prison.
and I know none of them are actually high school age, but I appreciate that the
No,
lead bully is the most like on high school age looking of them all.
but it's like these roided up teens that are just
It's
Dude
like
looks like
Andrew
he's
Garfield playing a teenage Spider-Man. It's just that's not a teenager.
we should probably step off of that so we don't get down that
but
discussion again. But yeah.
all right. So, do either of you guys have any final thoughts on Christine?
No final thoughts, just
Car
another
goes
thing.
from.
Sorry.
That's my final statement.
Okay. But once again, props to the props department. I'm looking up right now some of the things about the cars. It's a 1958 Plymouth Fury is what it's advertised as, of course, so they didn't find exactly. Um, they were able to build like 17 total copies of the car throughout the movie. Um, and apparently the total production for the Plymouth Fury just over time was just 5,303. So that's a small production number.
Well,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, while watching it, I was like, oh, they must have had quite a few cars. I didn't realize they had 17.
But 23 in total were
Oh,
used. But
23.
you had 17 total copies of the car, but there were different things being used at the time.
Yeah.
Um, apparently, some of King's details of the car were incorrect in the novel. Just based on some of the details, the 56 to 58 Fury was only available as a two-door coupe, while the book describes it as a four-door sedan, apparently. This is what I'm reading. I don't know. Magic car. Could be a sedan. Who knows?
I'm not a car guy, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, the sedan versus coupe is like slightly smaller, as one who has one, as
I
opposed to a
feel.
few people who have sedans. Um, there's also certain things. Apparently, to lock the door, the handle has to be pushed downwards. King also mentions a shift lever for the automatic transition, but in real life, it had push button controls. Just different, just like small things. But
Small things that you'd have to be like a car guy to
He
notice.
didn't do his research. He snorted his cocaine instead.
Yeah, but Arnie was the greaser, so yeah. It's funny thinking the nerd becomes the greaser throughout the story. It's definitely an interesting transition.
All right, so Milton, final rating for Christine.
I will give Christine a 3.75 out of 5.
And would you watch it again?
I would watch it again, I think.
What about you, Austin?
Casually, but yeah, I would.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5.
You guys are gonna yell at me. I'm gonna give this a
Okay.
2.5 out of 5. I would watch it again, but only if I'm showing it to someone.
Okay, you're scaling it on this is the middle score. This is an average movie. Is that what you're saying? Or are you rating it versus an adaptation versus
just an average movie because I don't remember the book well enough to compare the two.
I suppose.
I only read the book once and it was years ago.
To each his own.
Shut up, Austin.
Don't
all
worry,
right,
we
so
all can have wrong opinions on the show. It's fine.
all right, so Austin, tell us about Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness is about a prince who is of darkness, and he's got
What?
some green liquid, the secret of his ooze, and it makes people evil. And yeah.
I don't know if he didn't like the movie, didn't understand it, or just being an asshole.
Finally, a movie just for me.
Austin, what did you think of Prince of Darkness? Because I know this was your first time viewing it.
I liked Prince of Darkness. It gave me like flashbacks to The Thing, but much slower. Not as like crazy, like fast paced, or like the crazy gore, but just like the whole just people being corrupted in the small kind of location. Gave me kind of vibes to that again.
Well, and you can see why he considers this like part 2 of his Apocalypse trilogy.
Which is interesting because part 3 is In the Mouth of Madness, and
it's nothing like these two.
I guess there is corruption.
Well, it's about
same
mouth,
kind
I
of
guess, and corruption comes from the mouth or something. I don't know.
But I guess now that I'm saying it, there is like, okay, you know what? I can kind of see it now that I'm thinking about it.
It's because of the like they're facing like an apocalyptic force they can't beat, right? Like
Well, I was thinking because in that you have like the Stephen King like figure who is kind of like corrupting people through his book. So instead of like that physical contact, it's more of people read it and then are corrupted. But
remember, Milton hasn't seen it yet. That's next week.
no, I know. I'm explaining
just-
why I think it's part of that, how it fits.
We'll get to it next week. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
All right. Milton, what did you think of Mouth of or Prince of Darkness? No, yeah. God damn
In the Mouth of Darkness.
it.
The Prince of Madness.
That's a different guy.
I just hope we're not in the Prince of Madness.
But yeah, so I have a theological background. Finally, something I can appreciate. Okay, this movie was so wacky with some of its stuff, but I did like it. I like this movie. I would, it no, it doesn't make sense. There are certain, I mean, for those who didn't exactly get a great summary from Austin about this movie, despite the fact that nothing that he said is not true, it's not. So you have Donald Pleasance as the priest, and it's like, oh, yes, sometimes certain movies with Donald Pleasance aren't going to be great just because Donald Pleasance is in them. But I'm glad that he's here, and he does well with what he's supposed to do. He's
I've
one
seen
of
the
my.
Halloween sequels.
There's something about just old time actors, just in his generation, that really just gave their all, and it's something that I feel like has not been matched yet.
And they just add just a level of gravitas
Yeah.
to like,
It's like
whatever film they're in.
it's like they give like a classical kind of feel to what they're doing, as if they're the masters of what they're doing. So you have that. You have the idea of them being isolated in the church, where they're kind of turning the whole church thing on its head, where the church is not a place of sanctuary; it's a place of danger. Where underneath, like the foundation of the church, is apparently this corrupt rot that people have to face. There's the idea of theology still being used as a form of defense, but it is not a defense in of itself. You have to act. Of course, then there's also John Carpenter kind of just inserting some really, really wacky things with like, okay, let's try to insert science fiction with dark fantasy and try to wrap it up with what the Bible says about Revelation. And apparently Jesus was an alien.
I loved that.
And
Like,
apparently God is like plutonium or something like that. It's like, it's like I know, John. It's like Carpenter. I know you want people to take this film at least somewhat seriously, but sometimes if you insert stuff like that, but hey, it's Carpenter just being himself, so whatever. Yeah. Satan is of course alluded to. Certainly, he's in theology. He is not actually a match for God. He's just a wandering, cast out spirit, pretty much exiled from heaven. But he's still, theology gets sorted with like trying to interpret Revelation with, the horror of Babylon and plenty of the other signs. Like these are the signs in which the end times will come, the arrival of the Antichrist, and whatnot. So it gets sorted. There's no like correct interpretation of it exactly. Um, who knows how literal or how figurative these things are supposed to be? So there's room for interpretation. Um, it's interesting. I didn't. I had the same thought as Austin did, that this is kind of like it's like using the system of the thing to tell a different story. But the problem is, I can also see the same system, and I feel like the thing did it better.
Yeah.
the pacing for this movie is a bit more gradual, but at least it's consistent, so I can praise it for that. Of course, I feel like sometimes a more frenetic pace, like something about the thing that would have been better, but at the same time, if you have the same system and the same pacing, people would probably rag on this film a bit more because it's just Carpenter doing the same thing that he did before. So there needs to be more variation. I would have liked to see some more of my questions answered with how in the world this sort of thing exists, why it's there. I feel like some of those questions being answered actually they would help the film a bit. I think. I don't think the rules for the I'm going to call them zombies for now, or we could say the possessed, I suppose, for that. I think the rules for the possessed are not quite consistent sometimes. They're consistent enough, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Kind of like
I'm.
that Christine thing where you kind of know what Christine can do, but then suddenly Christine can make you choke to death.
I, I'm not gonna pretend to understand this movie because there's a lot of concepts in this movie that go over my head at least. But I'm glad that we are doing this so that I could rewatch this. Because I told Austin back when I was going through some of Carpenter's films that I hated this movie. I thought it was at least one of his worst movies. I don't know if you remember that, Austin. I don't know what I was talking about. I loved this movie upon rewatch. I think the first half is a little rough with the pacing, but once we get into the church and that first person gets infected, like I was hooked on the story of this film. Um, I still think the water thing's a little dumb, but like I like this movie enough to just give it to the movie. Um, and like you guys said, Donald Pleasance is great in this movie, and they got Alice Cooper.
Yeah, that's true.
And Dirk Blocker.
I didn't see him.
Yeah, Dirk Blockers. He's the guy that gets stabbed in the eye.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But we also get some returning cast members from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, we get a lot of those.
Yeah.
Well, and so I actually jotted that down, just to give a little background on this movie because I did copy some behind the scenes stuff. This was inspired by Carpenter's research into theoretical physics and atomic theory, which is where I think a lot of the ideas in this movie go over my head.
Sure.
And this was part of a deal with Alive Pictures for $3 million per film, and he gets complete creative control. And like Austin said, a lot of returning John Carpenter alumni. Donald Pleasance. I don't. What's the guy from Big Trouble in Little China's name?
Which one?
The Asian.
The
Which one?
professor. The professor guy.
Yeah. No, I'll look at the cast here, but yeah, definitely you got a
the guy
really good
plays
actress
is
here. You've
Egg
got
Shen.
Victor Wong.
That's a different guy.
No, that's Professor.
No,
Like Dennis Dunn is the student guy. I can't remember
Oh yeah.
the name.
Yeah, Dennis Dunn, I think, right?
Yeah, that's the name of the student, the one that gets trapped in the closet.
Yeah.
Which I love the scene where they're digging him out and he's just kind of waiting and complaining. And then the second the women start coming through the door, he immediately starts pushing his own way through. He just hauls ass on it.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention him being trapped in the closet, considering how many homosexual jokes are levied against him in that movie.
Well, that was his whole plotline. He was trapped in the closet.
It's just a struggle again now.
Yeah, that's what that woman gets for looking like she could have been Asian.
Yeah, funny as well. The things that were trying to get him were women. It's like, I gotta get out. I gotta escape. Yeah.
The women are trying to get him out of the closet. And he says no, and he digs his way deeper into the closet.
And then
very metaphorical film.
some of the stuff that Milton mentioned, like Jesus being an alien, I kind of loved that stuff, and I wish we'd gone further with that.
This
I like
reminds me
just
of-
how out there it was.
Yeah, I wonder, of course, more development would have been good. I'm not sure how much time you could have spent on it necessarily. Maybe what we could have done is we don't do a lot of setup. Maybe one flash to Donald Pleasance discovering what's going on in the church, and then we move forward to just the place and time at the church, and they just start setting up. And maybe we could have spent more time on everything else. Maybe you could have tightened up the beginning a little bit, that sort of thing. Maybe give some more filmmaking cues to how dangerous the mirrors will become later. Maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something I wanted to mention too. I thought the effects with like the water mirror thing was really cool.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of inventive ideas in this movie. A lot of kind of just making his own statements on different things like science and religion and how those two mix and don't mix. Like I said, a lot of that stuff goes over my head. I'm not a scientist nor am I religious.
As someone who's watched a lot of stuff and has done some study, I'm no physicist and no scientist exactly, but some of the stuff that he says does actually make sense.
Okay.
Some of it does not make sense at all. But he's trying. He's made more of an effort than a lot of people have, all things considered. So, yeah.
So Austin, this being the first time you've seen this, was this the last Carpenter movie you hadn't really seen, or?
Well, because I haven't seen 3 of the films we still have to cover yet, so there's still a few I haven't seen.
Oh,
I
okay.
own most of them. I haven't watched most of them at this point yet. I've watched at least over half of his filmography. There's just a few that I'm missing.
Okay. So did you have any kind of expectations going into this movie since you're just very familiar with his work, or?
I just expected it to be good. That was
I
kind of
just wanted to see Donald Pleasance use an axe.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
got what
was
I
not
wanted.
prepared to see him decapitate a woman, but I was quite pleased.
You heard it here, folks. Austin likes violence against women.
Yeah. The only part that sucked was she put her head back on and she was fine. But
Was it okay? So by the time the later half of this movie, I was starting to get a little tired, so I may have forgotten a few things. Was that the blonde woman?
yeah, but
Yep.
she's all scarred and she got her hand in the
She
mirror.
goes down. She goes down with the intention to take a 15-minute nap, but instead she is revealed to be the Whore of Babylon, essentially.
I was really confused about her role in the movie. Like that makes sense now that you're mentioning it, but like she got that bruise, and I guess that's what started it. But like,
No, it was. I think they were trying to allude to her having a past relationship that wasn't good or something like that. Or it's like, this is the trigger. Here are the signs or things. We're going to choose one of the people here who best fits that description. You, marked. Okay, go. We'll tag you later with our acid reflux spit.
Also, what is it with John Carpenter and writing like two characters that are supposed to be like in love with each other or like dating? Because he did the same thing in The Fog. Like these two.
Yeah, that I see what John's talking about, and it's like, yeah, it bothered me too. I feel like we could have. It's one of the reasons why I feel like with all that development, we could have just skipped past that. Let's just get to the church. Stop
Anyway,
spending a lot of time there.
Anyway, Austin, what I was saying was, what I was talking about was the redhead and that guy that she's dating in the movie, where it cuts from him asking her out to them like
Oh yeah,
sleeping.
to them sleeping together. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
just the way you phrased it, where you're like, "What's up with John Carpenter and having a relationship
I said characters.
between characters and like
I
every
don't think
film ever made?"
Well, because I hadn't finished my thought before you interrupted. I was gonna compare it to The Fog because he does the same thing in The Fog. Remember?
No, I did think about that with the fog too, and
Yeah.
it just made me laugh. I don't know.
It's
Um,
weird because he doesn't treat it the same, and it's like you're coming off of Big Trouble in Little China, and I think that relationship, while definitely a bit more weird, is still better developed than what he did in this movie.
and I feel really bad for that redhead, by the way, at the end of the movie. She's like trying to help people, and they just trap her in that other dimension.
Well, I mean, can you blame Donald for like as soon as like the girl's in, that's the best time to vamoose.
Yeah,
You might not get a
he
second
made a
opportunity at
heroic
it.
sacrifice.
I
And
mean, I'm not saying what what he did was wrong, but I feel bad for her. She didn't
certainly.
agree to be trapped in that dimension.
Well, I don't think she was well, the thing is, she could be dead, and her body's now just possessed.
I mean, that's
That could be the
possible.
situation.
Well, she
Hopefully,
became
she's dead. I hope she's dead because if she has to survive an eternity in that situation, that's truly hellish.
Was that supposed to be like this film's version of hell, or does anybody know for sure?
Well,
That's what I assumed because it's like the father of Satan, right?
well, so based on theology and trying to see how
Oh
John
no.
Carpenter might interpret it or go around with it, so technically speaking, it doesn't necessarily have to be hell, but I think it. I'm not sure how much is implied because people interpret things differently. Um, I guess we could
It's
say it could
water
be
world, which is basically hell.
there's something, of course, with water and liquid being used in this movie as this is kind of our anti-element. It's just taking this form in this world. So, Satan, or being anti-God, I suppose, in this movie, is kind of just bound in a world that seems liquid but isn't, or something like that.
And
I
I
think that's the connection there.
and I liked the God and anti-God thing. I like when you can take like opposites and draw parallels to them. So if like God is matter, then we have antimatter, which is obviously like Satan or anti-God. Um, but the thing there was a few things that I was curious about, like all the homeless zombies that are there from like the start. Was that just the liquid having an effect on them before we get there, or?
Well, I mean, I would imagine that somebody stumbles into that church and probably spread something. So they probably wanted to prepare to have people, trap people in. That was their function essentially, because they don't want to keep people out initially, but they want to keep them in once they have enough people inside.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting. It's cool that Alice Cooper was there.
yeah, it's cool that Alice Cooper is homeless.
well, and
I'm kidding.
apparently that came around
He's
because
got that poison flowing through his veins.
apparently the executive producer of this film was a manager to Cooper, and suggested that Cooper record a song for the film, and then Carpenter put him in the movie.
Did he make
Yeah.
a song for the film?
That's what Wikipedia said, but I didn't hear it.
Because with the entire time I was like, I'm surprised Alice Cooper didn't make like a Prince of Darkness song.
There's a track listing that was originally done by John Carpenter. It has 8 tracks, but there's also an expanded edition that was released in 2008, which has a lot more actually. Apparently, like 28 tracks.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, and now that I think about it, like
So,
Alice Cooper, it's not like he doesn't show up in movies and like do a song in every single film that he's in. Like he doesn't do a theme for the Nightmare on Elm Street film he's in.
I can't wait to show Milton
Or
that movie. It's fucking insane.
which one's he in?
6.
Oh fuck!
I like
oh,
6
no.
quite a bit. It's bad, but it's funny.
It's so bad.
That movie is insane. I also really like Alice Cooper's song that he did for Friday 6, because apparently Alice Cooper just is somewhere involved in the 6th installment of these slasher movies.
Yeah, he's in Nightmare 6, Friday 6, and Prince of Darkness 6.
Exactly. But also, do you remember that song, "The Man Behind the Mask"?
Yeah.
It's really catchy. Like, it's not complicated at all lyrically, but it's catchy.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that song.
we should just do like all the 6s of like horror franchises.
Or we could not.
What, you don't want to watch Halloween 6?
No.
I think the only good one in those would be Friday 6.
No. But Alice Cooper's cool, I think. I think he's a cool dude.
But yeah,
When I saw his credit, I was like, "Oh damn!" Like that's a surprise, but definitely a welcome one.
I would a surprise, but a welcome one to be sure.
Especially when I found out he was homeless, because fuck that
guy. So Carpenter wrote the screenplay for this.
Sorry, hey John. Before we get into that, real quick, just to mention with Alice Cooper and kills, it probably has one of my favorite kills in these John Carpenter movies. Half a bicycle just around Alice Cooper.
I rewound that like twice to make sure that I saw it right, because I was like, what the hell did he just stab him with?
He just has half a bicycle somewhere.
Well, he's homeless. He can't afford a full bicycle.
That's a fair point.
So Carpenter wrote the screenplay, but credited himself as Martin Quatermass, which along the was named after was an homage to a British film and television writer Nigel Neal, and his best-known character Bernard Quatermass. And apparently the author, Nigel saw this movie and was quite pissed because he didn't want people to think he was associated with this movie.
Oh, poor Carpenter! Like he just does stuff and people get pissed at him. I bet that author looked at this and was like, "Fuck this guy! This is a Jack Daniels commercial."
He might be the most abused Hollywood director of all time.
Him and Romero. Carpenter maybe a little bit more.
I'd say a bit more Carpenter because at least George Romero has some respect in the horror industry from some of the other horror directors that still continue some of his work.
Oh, but see, Carpenter's always been respected in like the horror community. It's just the like mass like public appeal that he's never had.
Well, I'm gonna go with Carpenter just because Carpenter, I feel like, has much more of a I got like screwed by the system kind of feel as opposed to Romero.
That's fair.
Romero is in Call of Duty Black Ops, so I think if he gets that way, then John Carpenter
showing up in Call of Duty Black Ops.
Yeah, there's a map in that game where basically George Romero kind of explains this is the set for my new horror movie, and you just have actors like Danny Trejo just present.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, Michael Rooker, and I forget
Rourke.
Robert Englund.
Robert Englund, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Carpenter, if he got that phone call, would be like, fuck you.
Well, see, I just imagine George Romero getting that call and answering it like in that Red Letter Media review where he's like, what's a Call of Duty?
No, but he was already making movies where he's like, I gotta fight zombies with my Twitter.
No, here's the thing. Like, Romero would not have been, if he probably wouldn't have answered the call that way because he was trying to make a Resident Evil movie. Like way before then. He knew what video games were. And he had appreciation for them.
I like how the joke just went.
Sure. But
well, I mean,
I know.
I've
watched Red Letter Media, so I know the reference. Yeah. I know.
And it also doesn't mean that Romero played Resident Evil. I mean...
Well, and he made a commercial for Resident Evil too.
Yeah. Like, he probably was just like, oh, it's a zombie thing. I'm the zombie guy. I want to make this. This might be... I don't know if you guys feel this way, but this might be one of the most, like... I guess I'm going to just say not meant for public audience movies. Like, this is meant for a very specific audience. Mainstream audience, that's what I'm saying. This is not really meant like worried about a mainstream audience.
See, I don't think Carpenter ever feels like he's worried about the mainstream audience. I've always just felt like he just makes what he wants to make.
Well, and I don't disagree, but I feel like a lot of his other movies, especially movies before this film, are simple enough that like a mainstream audience is going to be able to see it and like I know what's going on. But he gets really ambitious here with ideas, which I appreciated. But I could see why this one, especially this one, would have been a flop. Just because it's so out there compared to everything else that he's made.
Yeah, but when you also put yourself back to like the time, like when he made Halloween, for example, like he showed that off at like a college or a university. They did like a Q&A where he played the film, and then all the students could ask him about it. It was at a film school, and like every single person went up to him and was like, if you have the opportunity to make a film, why would you make like sleazy trash? And he was just like, oh,
That's so sad.
Interesting how we devolved in what 10 years? Not like 3 years.
It's probably why he didn't cast actual college or graduate students. And I'm fairly sure they were all supposed to be graduate students, but the age ranges, as I looked at the actors, are so weird. Some of them are so. I have no idea what he was trying to do with the age range of these actors, but
nah, they were all
But
14-year-old high school students.
but I see what you're saying about Halloween. Halloween's what, like 79,
78.
78. But I don't think that a group of students represents the like mainstream audience fully. Because think about it, in less than 3 years we had Friday the 13th, which is way worse than that and did just as good.
Yes, but Friday the 13th only exists because Halloween broke that mold.
That's fair. But what I'm saying is I think there was already an audience there. They just didn't have, because even before Halloween, you've got like Texas Chainsaw and Black Christmas. Like there was already an audience there building.
I mean, we talk
Like-
about like a selection of students not necessarily representing the body of a general audience. And I look at today, and I'm not so sure.
I don't mean today. I mean 30, 40 years ago.
I don't know. There were a lot of people at Woodstock.
But I just mean like compared to like even The Thing, I think is a lot more straightforward than this movie. But
Well, an audience looked at that and they were like, "What the hell is this? Get us out of here!"
But did they? Because the thing that saved that movie was VHS rental or purchases.
But that was a cult classic. Like that wasn't a mainstream success.
VHS rentals really saved a lot of movies that were trash at the box office. It's true of even movies like All Dogs Go to Heaven, for instance.
Okay, that's a weird one to go to, but
Just as an example.
Yeah, it was just
Just as an example.
Is The Thing just like the most confusing mystery of like what were you people watching back then? Like, how did this flop?
probably.
Corrupt critics.
They were like John Carpenter, fuck that guy.
No, maybe that could have been the thing.
Yeah, I mean, nothing would surprise me.
Roger Ebert's face opens up like a banana.
It's The Thing.
Oh my
Well-
god, he did eat Siskel.
No, he assimilated him.
Then he was after Roper next.
Then it was rude. Then they realized they were formaldehyde aliens.
So, Milton, since you are pretty quick at searching for things, I did not get a chance to look, but this was supposed to be the first of a multi-picture deal with Alive Pictures. Was his next few films also with Alive Pictures? Just curious. While he's doing that, Austin, I gotta tell you, when we started Resident Evil 3, I hadn't played it in like a year. I died to Nemesis like 6 times before I figured out the rhythm again.
What a chump.
He kept like cornering me. It was ridiculous. And it didn't help that I was pushing the wrong button to dodge. Yeah, why don't you stream to the channel and let's see how you do.
I will. I'm gonna use my infinite pistol and I'm gonna kill his ass.
I mean, I'm using my infinite rocket launcher.
Oh, well, la-di-da.
Okay, so I might as well.
Don't die.
So I might as well read the distributor credits for these features. You have really stuff like Dark Star with Bryanston Distributing Company. Nobody knows who that is. Neither are quite a few of these things. The Fog and Escape from New York were distributed by Avco Embassy Pictures. Universal did the thing. After that, Columbia Pictures did Christine and Starman. 20th Century Fox did Big Trouble in Little China. Universal came back to him with Carol Co. Pictures for Prince of Darkness and They Live. For like 87 and 88. Warner Brothers did Memoirs of an Invisible Man. New Line Cinema did In the Mouth of Madness.
Can't wait for that one.
Universal Pictures came back again and did Village of the Damned. Escape from LA was Paramount. And that was interesting. Sony Pictures did Vampires in 98.
Oh no.
Screen Gems. Yeah, Screen Gems did Ghosts of Mars. And the Ward was ARC Entertainment or Accelerator Media. So there's that. Yeah. I also failed to mention Turtle Releasing Organization with Assault on Precinct 13 and Compass International Pictures.
So basically, Carpenter goes around and gets screwed by every major studio in Hollywood.
But he kept coming back to Universal like a battered housewife. So
I'm actually looking
over when we get the Blumhouse remake of The Thing.
Please no.
I will remain cautiously optimistic about that.
You're always cautiously optimistic, John.
Yeah.
At least you're cautious, though.
I mean, I have no reason to distrust Blumhouse. Like, I even like their schlocky movies. I do. I've liked every movie that I've seen by them.
The fact that you said you have no reason to distrust them shocks me more.
What?
I prize myself for my facial reactions sometimes.
I didn't hear what Austin said. What?
I said just both of us made a face when you said that. Like, what?
I mean, if they put out a movie I enjoy, they put out a movie I enjoy. I don't know.
That is fair. I can't disagree with that as much as I might want to. I'm kidding. But with like, I don't know, picture deals, it's like you get certain things with him where like Avco did a double and Universal did a double and Columbia Pictures did a double. But it's like only like years back to back. Except for Universal, like he kept getting work with them.
Yeah. I am kind of excited to do Ghost of Mars just to see how truly awful that movie is. Because it looks terrible.
Yeah, Halloween apparently was distributed by Compass International and Aquarius. Apparently, that was
the original. Okay, because there's 3 Halloweens now.
The 78 Halloween.
Do you mean the Rob Zombie one?
You meant the John Carpenter's Halloween.
You mean the 2018 one?
No, because it's not John Carpenter's Halloween.
But that's a different guy.
Every single John Carpenter film has John Carpenter's above the title. So you know.
I never noticed that, actually.
How did you not? Whatever. Let's move on.
I'm not looking for.
When you look at all of his films, they all say John Carpenter's above the title.
No, John is one of those guys where he'll look at his phone in the theater during the opening and end credits. I'm kidding. I don't mean to rag on you.
Are you just like biased against other Johns? Where you're like, no one else can have my name.
That's it for April. We're doing nothing but terrible movies.
Blumhouse Pictures, short.
Yeah, the Blumhouse.
Hey, I said I enjoyed them. I didn't say they were all good.
That is fair. You did say that. I like to take opportunities to review some black and white movies. Not
Well,
just
I mentioned
stuff
doing
like
some
Night of the Living
Universal
Dead.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to do a
I
Universal
also
month.
want to
And
do Nosferatu at some point.
Yeah, that just released on Amazon Prime actually.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that. I have that and the remake on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it was on Amazon. That's cool.
and then if we can ever get Austin on the weekends, I'd like to do some Hellboy.
I'd also like to do a Hammer with Christopher Lee.
But Austin's always like,
Christopher
no,
Lee.
fuck you.
Definitely, yeah. Christopher Lee's the man.
Have we said everything that we want to about Prince of Darkness?
I feel like I
think
have.
so. Yeah.
Oh, props to sorry, one other guy, one other actor in that movie. I'm trying to look up his name.
Is it the creepy laugh man?
Shoot, yeah. Just was his name Calder? Or was it
Did I guess it right? Is that the character you're talking about?
Yeah, that was the guy. Yeah, that's the guy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let's see if I can.
Well,
he did a great job. That's what I'll say.
All right, so
yeah, I liked all the actors in this. I liked that guy's creepy laugh. That was the big thing that stuck with me from that guy.
all right, so
Just
Austin,
kind of walking around giggling.
what would you give Prince of Darkness, and would you watch it again?
I think I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I would definitely watch it again. Yeah, I feel like I need to watch it again to kind of cement my feelings on it. That's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, any rating that we give, at least me personally, you ask me in a week or after another viewing, it'll be completely different.
Yeah, he'll like Christian a lot better in a week.
No.
You'll finally come to your senses.
No.
You'll be walking and like a lead pipe will come down on your head and you'll be like, "Ah, Christine was great."
So I'll be dead.
Yeah, but in your dying moment, you'll realize that Christine was.
Yeah, that's the movie I'm gonna be thinking of when I'm dead.
Just say Christine's name right before he dies.
All right, Milton, what would you give Prince of Darkness, and would you watch it
sled.
again?
I don't know what number I'm. The thing is, so it's like a worse thing, but I can't just give it a 4 out of 5 because I think that there are some things which are. I don't know. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5.
But I almost did that too. 3.5. Because that's kind of where I was leaning, was 3.5.
It's
like
you said, Christine. It's like you said, this movie is definitely not as much as like a crowd pleasing movie, like Christine was built to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to give it a lower rating than Christine, but I can't give it a 4 exactly. I'm kind of struggling with this one.
Just a side note,
I'm gonna lower my rating for Christine to a 3.5, and I'll say that this one is a 3.75. That's all I'll say.
Just a side note before I give my review, I love this cover art. It looks so good.
I have no idea where it comes from in the movie, but I like it too.
I think it's just a drawing somebody did.
Just like the Shining cover.
Yeah.
Or the Thing.
Yeah.
Or the weird Evil Dead, like Evil Dead 2 skeleton face.
Well, and I don't know what's up with Evil Dead 2, but like they keep changing the cover for that one.
Oh yeah, the Evil Dead 2 was released in the same year as this movie.
Again, points to my theory that the 80s was the golden age of horror. Love 80s horror. I reviewed this on Letterboxd for anybody who follows me, and I originally gave it a 4 out of 5. But after talking about it and kind of thinking about it, I think for my final score on the show, I'm going to give it a 3.75 out of 5. This
is my close score too. So
this went from one of my least favorite Carpenter movies to maybe top 5. In fact, I'd probably put this at 3 or 4 in my top 5. I will definitely watch this again. Hopefully, I have just as a good viewing, if not better. I would like to see. Also like to go through the special features. For anybody who's not aware, this is the Scream Factory 4K release. They started doing that, and it looks excellent in this format. And there's a lot of cool bonus features. So that is week 2 of Carpenter Week. We're already halfway through. It seems crazy to believe.
Week 3. Oh wait, no.
No.
Wait.
No, this is week 2. Because we did the fog and the.
Yeah. Yes, this week.
Forget him. He's using Canadian time.
He's on the same time zone I am. So
date wise, time.
Austin, what are we covering next week?
We are doing Village of the Damned and In the Mouth of Madness.
Awesome. So the one thing I'm going to mention now, and then I'll mention it again at the end of Carpenter Month. If you guys have Letterboxd accounts, I know Austin does. Make a new list of the movies that we ranked, that we reviewed this month. Because I know you have a list, Austin, but of Carpenter movies. But I figure one's just movies we covered, and I will post those on Instagram to reflect our ratings.
And I figured I would just show my Carpenter list that's just like full.
At some point, I'll do the Letterboxd thing too, so I might as
well. No, you must make a new. No, I don't care. Whichever one you send me. It doesn't matter. Sunday, I believe Milton and I will be back with Resident Evil 2 and 3. Hoping to wrap those up. Hopefully, Austin will be there this time. I don't know. Were you doing?
On the time.
Were you doing something this Sunday? I don't know.
Well, I'm going skiing on Saturday, so I'm gonna be like gone, and then I'm gonna have to leave on Sunday. And I also have the WandaVision spoiler cast.
Austin, just me and John are rather worried about you. We want to know where you were last night.
I'm not telling you, Dad.
Oh,
I'm the dad in this relationship. Wonderful.
Yeah, of course, because John's the bitch.
Fuck you. But we've got some cool ideas coming up this next month, I think. Obviously, we've started doing gaming. Milton and I are going to record a review of Resident Evil 2 and 3 once we finish those. Austin, you're more than welcome to join because I know you've played those games quite a bit as well.
Yeah, I've beaten both of those quite a few times, so I'd be down to do that.
Austin and I and Milton, if he is able to read them, would like to go through Hellboy at some point. I don't know if that's going to be on the main show or if that'll be like a spin-off we do a weeknight. I don't know if I want to add another show to the rotation.
We do a lot already, but we could always do more, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe
Austin and I will spin off just away from John.
Yeah, we're gonna do the No Blumhouse is Allowed show.
So
we keep talking about it, so it's gonna become real. So
if we do another show, it would have to be on Thursdays that aren't when Austin is doing the After Dark on a different YouTube channel, or on Friday nights. So let me know which night works for you guys, and if you want to add a second show to the rotation for comics. And then we'll just do it. I think the easiest way to do that, if we're adding another show, would just be like trade by trade or story arc by story arc. But we will talk about the rest of that once we finish the stream. We just like talking too much.
we like hanging out with you guys. We like seeing what you guys think. Whether you comment now or comment later.
But yeah, we appreciate you guys being here. Check out some of the other videos that we mentioned tonight, and we'll be back next Wednesday with In the Mouth of Madness and Children of the Damned.
No, Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned.
Village of the Corn.
Village.
Children of the Damned is the Iron Maiden song. All right. This has been Haven of Horror, and we appreciate all of you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.